Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Becker, Mr. Carangelo,
Present.
Mr. Sismar,
Here.
Ms. Guas,
Here.
Mr. Hong,
Here.
Mrs. Reese,
Here.
Mr. Winston.
Here.
President Lax.
Here. We have a quorum. Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be publicized by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices. Written notice was also provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star Ledger, the Home News Tribune, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotaped for later broadcast. It is the policy of the Board of Education that videotape meetings are not edited for any purpose. Individuals who speak at the board's public meetings should be aware of these videotaping rules. Good evening. I'm going to go right into our closed session, whereas the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion in a public meeting, and these subjects are within the exceptions to the Open Public Meetings Act and are permitted to be discussed in closed session. The Board of Education intends to discuss matters as follows, those items listed on tonight's agenda. Whereas the length of the closed session is estimated to be 1 hour, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and action will be taken. Now therefore be it resolved that the East Brunswick Board of Education will recess into closed session for only those aforesaid subjects.
So
moved. Moved by Mrs. Guas, second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. We will be back in about an hour. And we are back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's always nice when we come back from the long break and see filled chairs. So, I'm sorry, Mrs. Reese.
Yeah, before we proceed, I had something quick to say.
Sure.
As you know, President-elect, we had the sad news to share the board member, Vicki Becker, lost her dad last night. We extend our sincere condolences to our esteemed colleague, Ms. Becker, at this difficult time. And I would like to make a motion to move up the vote for the board vacancy so that Ms. Becker can go home as soon as possible to be with her family.
Okay, so I need a second for that?
Second.
all of us, second.
Second by everyone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries then. So going a little out of order, just to remind everyone, I did recuse myself on this item, so I'm going to ask the board secretary to please take over the nominations to appoint the new board member, please.
Okay, at this time, we'll entertain nominations for appointment. Okay, for the appointment of board member to fill the vacancy, Ms. Squash.
I'd like to nominate Tim Cummings.
And is there a second?
Second.
And are there any other nominations from the floor? Mr. Sismar?
Yes. I'd like to start out by saying thank you to all of the residents that applied for the vacant board seat. This is only a temporary appointment. I think the real voice is going to be in November when we have our Board of Ed election. I want to thank both Mr. Cummings and Mr. Kona. I believe the board did pick two very capable candidates for the final selection out of those that applied. After submission of resumes, watching both gentlemen answer some very difficult questions, it's my pleasure to nominate Dar Kona to the vacant seat on the board. But I would also encourage, if you don't get on, to be out there in November. So that's, like I said, this is a seat that's here for a couple months, and then the 3-year election's in November, so good luck to everybody. Thank you.
My second.
Second by Mr. Carangelo. Okay, in accordance with the bylaw, we will take a roll call vote in the order of the nominations. And once a nominee achieves a majority of those seated, the roll call then ceases. So, on the roll call for Mr. Cummings, Mrs. Becker,
Yes.
Mr. Colangelo,
No.
Mr. Sismar,
I guess the answer is no, because
Ms. Guas,
Yes.
Mr. Hong,
Yes.
Mrs. Reese,
Yes.
Mr. Winston,
No.
okay, and Mrs. Lax is recused, so she is not part of the vote. And Mr. Cummings has a majority of the eligible individuals permitted to vote on this, and Mr. Cummings is the selected individual. Congratulations, Mr. Cummings.
a question of order, so we don't get to vote on Mr. Kona?
Not based on, if you read the actual bylaw, the first candidate who receives the votes of a majority of the remaining board members will be elected to the vacancy.
I'll speak to the good of the cause on this, about that procedure. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Lax, you're
Back to me?
back to you being the chair and with the agenda.
Okay, going on to our agenda. Thank you, congratulations, and thank you to both gentlemen. Mr. Sismar actually said it very well. I was not part of the process, but I sat in the audience, and it's always difficult to come out here and answer questions. So, back to our agenda, I'm going to defer to Dr. Valesky on the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Lax. Good evening, everyone. Along with Board President
Oh,
Lur-
actually, you know what? I apologize. Would you mind if I called a very quick recess? Just
No.
2 minutes?
No.
Thank you. Sorry. Give it 2 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back. I apologize, but I wanted Mrs. Becker to be able to go home and grieve. Okay. Take 2. Dr. Valesky, it's all you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Along with Board President Lori Lax, I had the pleasure of attending the unveiling of Piece by Piece at Central Elementary School. This project was funded through a generous grant from the East Brunswick Education Foundation with assistance from Northfield Bank Foundation. Our art teachers, Angie Karakoglu and Michelle Lynch, worked with their 4th grade students to design 100 sculptures that were cast in aluminum by the Stuart Johnson Atelier. Each carving is inspired by Sustainable Development Goals, which were created by the United Nations. The mural is mobile and represents a lasting legacy for the 4th grade class that will inspire future students for decades. And by the way, there is a parent at Central who has extended the offer to have that display moved to the United Nations. So that will be a future discussion with the foundation.
Neat.
Hammersholt Upper Elementary School hosted their annual Student of the Month breakfast on Friday, June 9th, which I had the pleasure of attending. The Student of the Month program recognizes 2 students each month who have gone above and beyond the everyday positive behavior expectations as outlined in our PBSIS program at Hammersholt Upper Elementary School. Those students were invited to celebrate this honor with their families, their nominating teachers, administration, and the counseling department. Our Early Learning Academy preschool students have been very busy. The students had so much fun enjoying field day within each of their elementary school communities. This was their first experience with a tug of war, and they loved it. They started this year with a brand new music unit. They enjoyed singing, playing instruments, had guest musicians come in to teach and entertain them. One of their favorite things each year is to experience watching butterflies emerge from their chrysalises, learn about the full lifespan of butterflies, care for them in their nurseries, and celebrated setting them free. Congratulations to our May High School Athletes of the Month. Students were selected for this honor by the coaching staff based on performance, demonstration of leadership, effort in practice, and of course, modeling exceptional character. Hard to believe, but it's here. Fourth quarter report cards will be available on Monday, June 26th. Hard copies will be made available at the request of anyone without internet access. And just as a reminder, in case you didn't know, tomorrow, Friday, June 16th, is the last day of school and a single session day for all students. Graduation for the class of 2023 will be at the Cure Arena in Trenton, beginning at 10:30 a.m. And I hope everyone has an enjoyable and safe summer. And with that, I'm sorry.
For the graduation, can you just, oh, actually, forget, it'll be too late. Parents were asking what time they can open the doors, but I just realized by the time they see this, it's not going to matter.
Parents, if they're watching
9:30.
this, they should arrive by about 9:30.
But I think
Yeah.
this is broadcasted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I wanted to start a new segment tonight that's going to continue on into next year under the superintendent's report, and it's going to be titled, Did You Know? And so a lot of the things that the board works on with the budget and, we do things and sometimes you don't get to see the end product. And this year, we did start a 7th, 8th grade football team. And so the board has had an equipment replenishment program, making sure our athletes have the appropriate gear. But I wanted to show you, this is both the practice and play uniform for our 7th and 8th grade team, along with the pads, and not a concussion-resistant helmet, but a helmet's designed to prevent concussions. So the board is buying very state-of-the-art equipment for our athletes. And these helmets were actually rolled up, not only for the 7th and 8th grade team, but we replaced a lot of helmets at the varsity level this year as well. Concussion prevention is a really big issue for us, and we're doing everything in our power to make sure that our athletes are well protected and well trained to prevent concussions. So I thought it was just important for you to get a look at this because sometimes you don't get to see it up close and personal. But from time to time, we'll bring things to the board and for the public just to showcase the things that you're doing.
I like this segment.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you, Vanna.
I was just going to say,
Janet, you can leave it there.
Yeah. Thanks, Janet. I appreciate it.
oh, we're going to pass them around? We can say,
I thought it was over. Everybody goes home with a
I know, I was just thinking the same thing.
pads and the helmets.
Yeah, if you want to, later on, take a look at the helmet
Were
because
were any of you
it's
class of
really nice.
83? See, if that was in 88, I was totally stealing that. You're 82?
Not
Jeff?
1882,
Jeff, you were 81?
2008.
2008, nice, okay. All right. Thank you.
So with that, I will, I'll see you at graduation tomorrow.
All right, well, you're not done yet. Although you are, I'm painfully aware of the empty seat between those two gentlemen. Our board rep, Megan, will be graduating tomorrow morning. She's been wonderful. We're looking forward to our replacement. So unfortunately, even though it's listed here this evening, we do not have a student representative report for the evening. So that was our one and only. Moving us on to the good of the cause for the public. So the Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. To protect the privacy of all students and staff, concerns regarding individual students and staff members should generally be addressed by first meeting with the appropriate administrative staff. Public participation is not an opportunity to engage in dialogue with the board and shall be governed by the following rules. A participant will be limited to 3 minutes duration. And I do always remind people, this is your time to talk to the Board of Education. Please do not take our silence as not caring about your issue. If there is something that needs follow-up, the two lovely ladies in the second row, if we make sure that they have your information, name and contact information, then we'll be able to follow up on anything that needs following up on. That being said, is there anyone this evening that wishes to speak to the board? No. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yes? Okay. Please come to the podium. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Neil Shaw. I live at 1 Jennifer Court. I wish I was able to speak prior to you guys voting, because I know that both candidates came up and gave you guys the resume, but I met Dar 2 years ago, and I wanted to tell everybody on the board the other side. And the other side is the caring side, the guy that's always there to help. I started running for different offices 2 years ago, and the first guy that called me and helped me get through it was Dar. So I wanted to take this opportunity and say, the vote that you guys casted, even though you must have your reasons, I don't agree with. This guy he's an upstanding individual, and I really wish you guys would have given him a little bit more thought about his candidacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Is there anyone this evening? Yes, please come on up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Samuel Mena, 181 Blue Court. So,
Excuse me, sir, can you repeat your name?
Samuel Mena.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, sir. So, I as well, thank you guys for the opportunity. I feel that the vote was done, I mean, obviously for personal reasons, had to be casted, but I feel personally that we should have heard the voice of the public to really give a character witness of who Dar really is, right? And I had some words, and I wanted to go on the record for it. Mr. Cohen, not only is he committed to excellence, he's unparalleled. His dedication to his students goes beyond the field of play. He understands the sports are not just winning games. They're about instilling values such as teamwork, discipline, and resilience. Mr. Cohen has consistently demonstrated his ability to shape not only great athletes, but also outstanding individuals who excel in all aspects of their lives. His impact extends for beyond the sports arena. Mr. Cohen has been a constant advocate for the holistic development of our youth. He has been actively involved in promoting academic excellence, encouraging community service, and fostering a positive and inclusive environment for all children to thrive in. As a Board of Education member, he would have been able to bring a vast experience, passion, and unwavering dedication to the table. He understands the needs of our students and will work tirelessly to ensure that they receive a well-rounded education. Mr. Cohen's integrity, professionalism, and strong moral character make him an ideal candidate for this position. He possesses the ability to build bridges between different stakeholders and foster effective communication. His collaborative nature, not only would it be able to enable to work in harmony with their existing board members and other community leaders, ensuring that the best interests of our students always remain at the forefront. A servant leader is someone that prioritizes the growth, well-being, and empowerment of those he serves. And I believe Mr. Cohen not only embodies these attributes, he instills that in future leaders. One of the greatest stories I ever heard from Mr. Dar is the feeling he gets when a former student athlete sees him outside the fields. And that is, how are you doing, coach? To receive that type of title, it's not just being on the field. It's a sense of endearment. It's a sense of honor. That's because he's instilled this in the youth. Thank you for your time today. And as you prepare, to go on beyond the meeting, I apologize that this would have been written for him before you guys voted, but I know it's a decision that was weighted and it had to get done, but I can't wait for the day my 6-month-old will one day call you coach.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mena. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, come on up, state your name. Are you a student? Yes. Okay, then you don't have to state your address, just state your name, please. And you can tell us your grade if you like.
My name is Elena Kona. I'm a freshman. I'm going into sophomore year. As you can tell by my name, my dad is Dar Kona. My dad, I feel he deserves this role as Board of Ed member. My dad has always been there for students, for me, for my siblings, for people I'm friends with, for my fellow teammates. He is someone who I feel deserves this role, and I wish the vote was on behalf of the students, like thinking of the students, because I know my dad would benefit this district so much. As someone who's graduating in 3 years, I want my rest of high school experience to be something great, something like unfair dress code rules, or just simply not feeling that I have something happens at school and with my friend and they don't feel safe or they don't feel okay at the school. I want someone who has my side, who will take care of me and my friends and the people I go to school with and make sure that we will be okay and kids younger than me will be okay and they will have a great education and a great experience in this town, because I know so far I have, and my brother and sister, they have graduated from East Brunswick and they've had, from what I know, an amazing experience in this district. So I just wish that the vote was for the students. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the board this evening? Yes. Dr. Zambicki. Come on down.
Good evening, everyone. And it's exciting to be at the end of our school year. I just wanted to recap some wonderful things that happened this year. I want to thank the board and Dr. Valesky and the central administration team for working very collaboratively with EBA. We accomplished a lot in the past month. It has been amazing, so I want to thank you for that. I also want to acknowledge Lindsay Grossman-LaCoury, who is our Pride Chair, and also Jody Kroll, who was our Fast Chair, for doing amazing things this year. We were able to give so many of our high school seniors and also our ninth graders dresses for the prom and the semi this year, along with shoes, and also our guys. We were able to outfit our guys this year. Suits and tuxes, which was totally amazing. And I want to thank all the folks. It's not just EBA members, it's retirees, it's community members that volunteer in our Bear Den and were able to give their time to make sure that we're taking care of our kids. And we ended up this year, very excited, $160,000 worth of Pride and Fast grants that came from dues dollars of our members that went back to our students in all of our schools and in a whole lot of community ways. And our very last event, which is so dear to my heart, and I want to thank Miss Louise Sultana for also helping us, was our Splash Bash that we had last Friday for our pre-K through fourth grade special ed students and their families. It was well attended and very enjoyable. So it was a great, successful year. Looking forward to even more amazing things next year. So thank you very much, and have a great summer, everybody.
Thank you, doctors. And Vicki, you do the same. Is there anyone else this evening that would like to speak to the board? Okay, just making sure. Seeing none, I'm going to then close the public portion, moving on to our Board of Agenda items this evening. So we have done 1 through 3, so I am going to ask for a motion for items 1 through 7 under...
4 through.
Excuse me, 4 through 7. I said it, I'm looking at it. 4 through 7 on our Board of Education.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Winston, second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? Mr. Sismar.
Question, and then, I'm sorry. A question, and I probably have a comment. The shared services agreement on number 7, when it was broken down, is that, it looked like our costs that are billed to the township side for the use of the services. It didn't look like it was overinflated from what I saw, but I just wanted to ask that question. Like when the township rents the buses and stuff for the thing, taxpayer money comes from both sides. And it seemed to me, so I'm asking the question, that's basically our cost, correct? We don't add to that?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to compliment that because, you know, there's the Board of Ed budget and then there's the township budget. Well, guess what? The East Brunswick taxpayers pay for both. So I don't think either side should overcharge the other. So I wanted to compliment that when the township needs to use our buses for the camps, they are only charged exactly what it costs from the Board of Ed side of the budget. So I wanted to give you that compliment. We don't, you know, very, very fair way of dealing with it because the taxpayers get hit from both sides. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sismar.
Any other discussion? Okay, will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Carangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Sismar.
Yes.
Ms. Guas.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Winston.
Yes.
And President Lax.
Yes, motion carries. May I please have a motion for the one item under community programs this evening?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Winston, second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Is there anything that needs separated out under financial services? Because we have a lot. Yes, Mr. Sismar.
Finance number 12, please, the non-budgeted positions.
Okay, may I please have a motion for items 1 through 18 with the exception of number 12?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reese, second
Second.
by Mrs. Gua, sorry. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Any discussion?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there any discussion on those items,
12
except for yours?
separate, right? Yep.
Except for yours separate, you're good?
Yep.
Okay, will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Carangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Sismar.
Yes.
Ms. Guas.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Winston. President Lax.
yes with an abstention on P2305175.
Could you, I'm sorry.
P2305175.
30. Noted, thank you.
Thank you. Now, may I please have a motion for item number 12 on financial services?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Winston. Second by Mrs. Guas. Is there any discussion on item number 12, Mr. Sismar?
Yes. I have several things. So when it was originally listed in the last meeting's agenda, the word safety was in there, and I had some questions about whether or not it should go through security. The word safety was removed. Can somebody explain why it was in the first one and then not in the second one?
I believe that was an oversight, Mr. Sismar, because these are managing and monitoring student movement in the building. That's what these aides are doing. So it's really not related to safety as in terms of relationship to our security team or SSOs supporting any of that.
Where did this increased coverage, the ask, come from? Kind of like where and when did this show up that we needed, I think it's 15 positions?
Mrs. Tibbetts, do you remember where the original request, what the timing was of the original request for the additional aides?
There were aides in the budget from last year that were only for 1 year, considered as part of the transition to changing Hamilton Middle School to Hughes, so they were not included in the budget for next year when we reviewed that. It's actually only 4, it's 2 part-time morning, 2 part-time afternoon. We just did some adjustment of hours to the other ones, so the way that you see it laid out on the agenda is changing the hours from being 3.75 to increasing them a little bit, and then 4 actual new positions rather than cutting all of those that were part of last year's budget for a 1-year support of the transition to the upper elementary school.
When, and I guess the second part is, when was this comprehensive review done and the decision made to add these aides?
I had a meeting with Dr. Gaskell and the assistant principals mid-May, maybe earlier in May, to discuss every location of where we actually needed people and where we were short given the staff that we had.
So let me get down to my main question. I understand what you said about 4 more positions. It's actually 15 new positions, and I'll tell you why. Because in the 22-23 budget, we had 14 positions approximately, because there was 8, there was 2 hours an hour. And it was for the implementation of moving the 5th graders up there. I remember the discussions on that.
Right.
In the budget that was approved in May, we didn't keep any positions. In this budget, and I will read, these temporary positions are no longer required and recommended to be abolished. And that's for both line items for $145,000 and $44,439. So approximately $190,000 worth of aides were removed. So technically, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, when we voted this budget through, there was no positions. So this is what added confusion to me when this thing was presented, because it's not just a decrease in hours and this and that. This is 15 new positions, because, and like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, because the budget I was given,
Yeah.
hang on, the budget I was given said that those positions are going to be eliminated as line items, and then, unless something happened in between there,
All right, let's
that
let
we
Mr.
weren't shown.
So, Mr. Sismar, those positions that were eliminated were in fact eliminated. There were other aides, other aides in the school that were not reflected in what you noted in terms of the reduction. And a review of those, as Mrs. Tibbetts noted, that the remaining positions that were in the school, assigned to the school, the number of hours was determined needed to be increased, and I think they went from 3.75, or recommended for increase from 3.75 to 4 hours.
Right.
So a quarter of an hour each increase for those positions. So they're not new. There are 4, I believe it's 4 new positions that were determined through the review Mrs. Tibbetts mentioned, that were needed in addition to help support. That was something we didn't know previously. It wasn't until Mrs. Tibbetts delved into that with the school administration to identify those 4 positions.
And I'm going to follow up on that more later on, because I looked for the budgetary line item, and the only line items I had under the aids that I found in here, because there's a lot of numbers, folks, there's a lot of numbers in here, it doesn't show line item 11-056 anywhere in the 23-24 budget to show those positions, and then we're adding 4 positions.
Well, that's true. 056 is a subset of the 001 at the last 3 digits in the budget. 001, that's the master account. And then from that is drawn each of the schools. Each school has its own code that draws from that master account. And 056 is the code for Hammersholt.
Okay, so real quick, I don't want to take too long for this time here, because I know you folks don't need to hear this, but it looked like, so you're telling me we kept how many positions from last year in Hammersholt?
I can't tell you how many positions that was originally. I don't have the information here. But there were positions that remained in the budget that were not eliminated, that were assigned to Hammersholt.
Okay,
Mrs. Tibbetts, do you know?
12. There was 12 positions that were not eliminated initially. When we did a review of everything, we really felt like we needed a total of 16 positions. So it's 8 for the morning, 8 for the afternoon, total. But 12 of them had been in there through the entire budget period. They did not get eliminated.
So if my math is correct, if we retained 12, this eliminated 14 3 3/4 hour positions according to the budget, and 8 2-hour positions. So you're telling me we had 26 3 3/4 hour positions? So 13 and 13 if you did morning and afternoon to cover Hammersholt, just as hallway aides?
This past year, yes.
Wow. And they're non-certificated personnel. What can they do as far as discipline or, supervising children?
They're just, Mr. Sismar, they're just supervising. Without the certificate, they refer to the building level administrator for discipline.
So I guess my question would be, we had 13 people in the morning last year and 13 people in the afternoon that stand in the hallways and watch the students. For what purpose?
Well, to manage movement in the hallways, that was the big purpose at the beginning of this year with students. I don't know if you remember, we had a conversation with the board about teachers monitoring students, walking with students to various places, and then students became more independent as they learned the building, and they were moving from place to place. So then we had some situations where we needed supervision. That's the the issue that we encountered with the population that we had in the building.
But, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but supervision of children is a different word than oversight or just watching what's going on. It seems to me, and this is my opinion, we got the legals here, but, 12 people in the hallways that are just watching children, it seems to me that it's sounds like it's supervising them. Otherwise, it's people just watching. I mean, I know the school. I know what goes on in the school. I know how many people are in the lunchrooms. Have we eliminated staff with the new schedule? Have we eliminated staff that work in the lunchrooms, that work at the bathrooms, that do all those type of activities? Duties, they call them. They had a duty and they had a...
No, the staff still have duties assigned by the administration.
So we have, I'm doing the numbers in my head now to catch up. Because, and I don't have to say, I know the staff we had in the lunchroom. I know the staff, meaning teachers, certificated staff.
Right.
Certificated staff we had at the bathrooms. In the hallways, they port their classrooms, they watch the kids go by. And on top of that, we are having in the area of 8 to 10 in the morning, 8 to 10 in the afternoon, somewhere in that range, just to watch kids walk down the hallway.
Without looking at the duty schedule, I don't have that in front of me. I wouldn't be able to accurately tell you what duties are assigned and where teachers are assigned, but I know that teachers had duties.
Teachers don't do bathroom duty within the New Hampshire schedule. Their student contact time is instruction. So that is what these instructional aides, or these school aides are doing instead. They're monitoring who's coming in and out of the bathrooms, having them sign in and out. There is a staff member or a couple of certified teachers at lunch, but it's a lot of students, so there's more people who are there just monitoring, the movement of children to ensure their safety. There's not a single staff member in the building who's not responsible for, oversight of children. When you're working in the building, you're overseeing children. You're ensuring safety. They're not disciplining, but they certainly are making sure that children are, behaving appropriately.
I have a clarification question, because when you're talking about the 8 or 13, this is a pretty big building. I'm going to assume that these are spread out throughout, because you're making it almost, you're not saying that they're all standing in one hallway. They are throughout the building,
What I'm saying
correct?
is I worked in the building, and I understand how the school operates. And the school has basically the same population the 5 years I was there. It went from a 6-7 down to a 5-6. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Tippett, I don't mean to pick on you, but the word safety came up twice again. And that's what I said. I says, it's hard for me to explain today, but I know what goes on there. I know what's going on. And I said, why was the word safety removed in the word safety? And like I said, Mrs. Tippett, all due respect. She says they're there for safety. So what? Do you see my confusion sitting here, knowing how the building operates? And I mean, I'll end it with, I think it's overkill at some point, because you have, that is a lot of people, non-certificated staff, I'm saying, that can't discipline children. They're not supposed to supervise children. It's support staff, so.
But could you take safety out of the equation for a second, as in the way that you're looking at it? Maybe safety could be making sure that the children are walking down and not pushing into each other or whacking each other with a backpack and their stairs. So, to me,
That's
safety
discipline,
has a.
that's discipline, oversight, supervision, and safety all
But it
combined,
could
which
ju-
should be certificated
But
personnel.
maybe it's, but my point is, it's not just the discipline aspect. Maybe it's as simple as, I see a child whose shoelace is untied, you're worried they're going to trip. So certainly, as an adult, you could say to the child, sweetheart, come over here, I want to, tie your shoe or something like that. I'm just.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm not trying to be argumentative,
No, I know you're- no,
but the
I
last one
appreciate
said safety. This one, they said safety was moved because safety wasn't part of it. Do you see my confusion, folks?
Well, I think, Mr. Sismore, from my perspective, as Mrs. Tibbett said, every one of us, every moment of every day, and you know this because you've worked in this space for such a long time, you're looking at safety, even though that might not be your assignment, it becomes part of our routine every single day. And whether that's in your title or not, it's something we talk about, we train our people on. With our drills, now our students become participants in their own safety. So I think for me, it's hard to pull the word safety out, because that's something that becomes our first priority every day.
But that was one of my first questions. Why was the word safety pulled out?
Because
Like I said,
yeah.
I'll end this, I don't want to go too into the weeds, but, we were saying, well, the word safety was pulled out because safety has nothing to do with it. Because the word safety was pulled out this week. It wasn't in last month's
Correct.
budget.
Right.
But now you're saying, well, we do safety, we need to put that word back in. Yeah, the word probably should have been in there. And my concern is, and I'll end it on this because I know I can go on, is supervision of children should be by certificated personnel, period. We can have support staff with. But if we have, it looks like a lot of areas where there's going to be not certificated staff alone supervising, and it does lead to discipline and for the children. That's my concerns. That's it. I'm not trying to run the schools. I'm just pointing out, like, words coming in, coming out. The budget numbers, they're not matching for me. And this is me, I'm one person, but that's the best way I can explain it. So, sorry if I confused everybody.
Thank you. Mr.
That's
Sismar.
my concerns.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Mrs. Reese?
Yeah, and just listening to your concerns, and I appreciate what you're saying, because I know you know the building well and have experience there. I want to repeat what Dr. Valesky said, is that teachers and non-certificated support staff, whoever's in the building, when you work there, your job is to make sure that the kids are doing okay. And so having more eyes on the situation is always best. And we've heard from parents that they would like to have some additional support as they go in as fifth graders. So that is part of it, is making that transition as smooth as possible, being that they're a year younger when they come into Hammersholt than they were, previously. So personally, I'm thrilled that there's more folks watching because it's a big building, like you said. And I'm sure you're just talking about whether it's certificated versus non-certificated, but I'm just thrilled that there's more folks on hand because to a kid who's coming from fourth grade going into that new building, especially the first year, that's big stuff. And sometimes kids, who may take advantage of a situation, unfortunately, if they are by themselves and what have you, and joking or whatever, and a kid is in the wrong place at the wrong time, it's good to have more eyes. So I understand you have some concerns about the wording and so forth, but I'm trying to look at it from the bigger picture, that I'm just happy there's more folks there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reese. Okay.
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
If we
Mr.
want to move kids along, I toured the high school. Would that be something that could be considered about an 8 or 2 moving kids along? You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I didn't see that when I toured the high school. You want more, and my daughter, everyone's, so whatever hall that is there an opportunity to have an 8 or 2 to move those kids along? If that's sort of like what we're going with this? Push them, come on, because the kids are late.
I would have to talk to the high school administration. I don't think that generally we have an issue with student movement at the high school.
You don't?
No, not generally.
I don't know. Mr. Winston and I toured. We saw a cluster, and I hear it a lot.
You were in the terminal.
Yes, just the terminal.
When student movement, but the students cleared very quickly.
Okay.
It's like, there's a mass of students that move from that area.
My point is sort of on the same task, is would it be an option to maybe have someone there to help guide that along?
I think that.
Age has something to do with it.
Well, I would disagree. I think that population is very self-directed. They know where they want to go. They know how they're getting there. But at Hammersholt, that is a little bit different population. Yeah.
However, what I saw was kids clustering and.
Yeah, but
I'm just throwing it out there.
okay.
Not really making it big deal. I'm just.
Thank you, Mr. Carangelo. Any other discussion? And will this be a roll call vote as well?
Yes.
then? Okay, will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Colangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Sismar.
No.
Ms. Wass.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Winston.
Abstain.
And President Lax.
Yes, motion carries. Leading us to Human Resources, may I please have a motion for items 1 through 3 on tonight's Human Resources?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sismar, second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Colangelo.
Yes.
Mr. Sismar.
Yes.
Ms. Wass.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Winston.
Yes.
And President Lax.
Yes, motion carries. May I please have a motion for the one item under staff development this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hong and second by Mr. Winston. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. May I please have a motion for items 1 through 3 under student services this evening?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Winston,
Second.
second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? Will this,
Sorry.
ye of little faith, come on, let's take a breath.
It's like beeping at that.
Will the very eager secretary please call the roll?
That was a good.
He's helping. So,
Mr. Colangelo.
Beep, beep, yes.
Mr. Sismar.
Yes.
Ms. Guas.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Winston.
Yes.
President Lax.
Yes. Motion carries. May I please have an item for our one item under transportation services this evening?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Carangelo, second by Mr. Winston. Is there any discussion? Mr. Hong.
So, well, and in this school year, and the new school year will start very quick. I remember at the beginning of last year, the transportation was a big issue. So I just want to know what kind of situation we are now to get ourselves ready for new school year.
I will report back at the next meeting on that, because I need to go back to the Transportation Department to see what's remaining in terms of the routes. I think we're in good shape, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry I asked too early.
No? No, it's never too early.
No, and it's on our radar now for an update.
And Mr. Hong, I think I need to mention, and this is every year, you know, the getting students oriented about their bus stop, the time to be at the bus stop, those kinds of things, and about the, just those kinds of issues add to the complexity and the time. And we certainly had, issues with not being able to staff some of the drivers. We had some illnesses at the beginning of the year where drivers were out. We didn't have coverage, and some of our contracted bus providers were not providing the level of service that we expect here at East Brunswick. But you did take action this year to expand the bus fleet. So we're hoping that will generate positive results for next year. And that's going to be something we watch for every single year going out to make sure that we improve that service. The communication to parents, making sure, they understand what the expectation is, and of course, providing the service. But the quality of service, as I've said over and over and over again, I'd like to close out the year, our bus drivers do a phenomenal job. They deal with all kinds of situations. We get zero complaints about our bus drivers. So everything I deal with that has to do with buses is outside of the population of drivers that you employ. They are professionals, and I applaud them.
Starting at the top. Joyce. Great department. Is there any other discussion on transportation? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Bringing us to new and/or old business committee reports, information items for the good of the cause for the board. I want to start by saying that the ad hoc committee did have their final meeting. Out of respect for Mrs. Becker, she'll be reporting on that the next meeting, since that is her committee. And I just wanted to tag onto your piece by piece. Can board members possibly get over to see that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would suggest that it's pretty interesting. You can actually scan. I was thrilled to be able to see it. These kids did a great job. It's a true collaboration with the Education Foundation being able to give us much-needed funds for things that we might not have been able to do for these kids. And they really were so proud of it. So, and being the kid myself, I have to tell you, and Barbara, don't listen because you're a germaphobe like me, but I did Purell afterward. It was really, really cool to touch all the stuff. It was kind of fun. So.
I would say we could get it here, but it weighs probably thousands of pounds. I mean, it is a massive piece.
Yeah.
That if it's going to be moved to the UN, there would have to be a professional.
They're going to have fun.
That's going to have to do it.
But well worth it,
Yeah, it was very
Third
cool.
district on the Carnegie Hall
It's very
stage, the United Nations.
Well, one of the things too that I just want to mention, at the bottom of the display is the name of every student, and it correlates with the piece they created. So if those students come back a decade from now and look at that, they'll be able to, see their name associated with that artwork. I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and the messaging, Mrs. K was her brainchild, and really just the sustainability, the just everything about it, the quality, everything that these kids did, they really came together, and it was beautiful. So, yes, and let me just, the other thing, I didn't want to interrupt him in the middle of his superintendent's report. I did get a chance to go over and see the electric bus, and for some of our longer-serving board members here, this has been a long time coming. Mr. Giuliani remembers when we actually, with Dr. Valesky, took a trip down to Delaware. Kind of like our later start times, Barb, it's really nice to see things catching up to where we were and we knew years ago. And I applaud Senator Diagnan and Assemblyman Stanley for this piece of legislation, and I'm looking forward to welcoming those buses here, because we've been waiting for this for years and years and years, so.
And with that, Mr. Giuliani deserves a lot of respect for what he's done to make this happen, because when we had our first transportation committee meeting that I was on, and he was talking about how we had all the conduits and everything 10 years ago, I was like, are you kidding me? He literally blew me away, and I was so honored to even be part of that committee and see all the work that you've done to get us to this point. And I wanted to say thank you for what you've done to get the buses here for us.
I appreciate it. It is a team effort, as I
I realize
always
that,
say.
but you definitely.
Take the compliment.
Yes,
Very
take the compliment,
forward-thinking.
Dan.
All right, should I leave?
Yeah,
No, he's very
leave.
right, though. He absolutely is.
Because I saw how he handled it and, you know, his vision.
Yep.
It seemed like
You're right.
he had a lot of vision.
As I said, it's been almost a decade, but you're absolutely right. He was a leading force for this. So.
Thank
Mr. Sisman, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
First of all, I want to welcome Mr. Cummings to the board. I meant what I said in the nomination of Mr. Kona, and I'm going to say parts of it again. You know, I compliment everybody that put their names in. We narrowed it down to 2 individuals. A lot of thought went into my vote. My issue that I'm going to speak to now is I wasn't allowed to give my vote. So, and if we're following the way the bylaws, I trust you, I believe that, but in my opinion, the bylaw is flawed. I think Mr. Kona deserved the respect to hear, at least me, because I would have voted yes, and that's no dig on Mr. Cummings. It was, you know, I'm looking at 2 resumes. I'm looking at the way they answer difficult questions, just like I said in my nomination. And you have to make a choice at the end of the day. But, in my opinion, the bylaw is flawed. I think that both individuals that put all this time, that got narrowed down from, 7 to 2, I think both individuals should hear that they had support from the board. So, Mr. Cummings, like I said, I welcome you, but I would have voted for Mr. Kona. I'm an honest guy, and that's the way it is. And it was not an easy decision looking at everybody's resumes and stuff. But like I said, I wish Mr. Kona could have heard my yes, and I welcome you, Mr. Cummings, to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sismar. Mr. Winston.
I too want to welcome you, regardless of my vote to the board. And with that, I think my vote deserves, I think you deserve to hear justification and rationalization. In your interview, I think you're a terrific person. I think you're going to have an amazing tenure here in East Brunswick, and I think based on your resume, I think your skill set that you bring to this town is something that we will greatly benefit as you become more a part of this community. With equally due respect, you've been here for 24 months, which did cause reservation on my part. Your contributions to this town are limited at best at this point, nor would I expect anything different based on the amount of time that you've been here. It is greatly concerning, but I don't think that is preclusive of why you will or won't be successful in the role. My concerns are more involved, not necessarily with whether you were or weren't voted in, but the method in which, in many respects, in which the process that this board needs to wrestle with as to whether, A, it is a proper way to pay respect to those who are interested in the community, and secondly, does it maintain the integrity of the position? And what causes me to take a little bit of pause when it comes to the process in this board is, you know, I too lost a parent last year, and the last thing I think I did was think about attending a board meeting. And the only way that I would think about coming is if I knew that there was an outcome of a vote that I was the swing vote on, which means that this was already predetermined. No disrespect to you, prior to, I think, you even sitting at that table. I think that's unfortunate for this board. I'm very saddened that this continues, that we have a singular voting block that determines the direction. This board truly has become a board of no more than 5, and it's unfortunate. It's very, very sad. I am sorry that Mr. Kona had to waste his time, and yours for that matter. I don't think it mattered what you said in that meeting. I think it was already predetermined. However, that said, I hope that I see and you bring everything for one singular purpose, and that would be for the students and then the rest of the stakeholders, whether it be staff. I think you have a big uphill battle. Your lack of familiarity with the soul of this town is going to be the largest thing that you're going to have to get over before you can understand what's next for the town. So you're doing 2 major things. You said in your interview, your greatest accomplishment is your relationship with your wife and to your kids. I think your second greatest is going to be to learn East Brunswick while being a part of the rulemaking process. So I do wish you the best of luck, and I offer any assistance I could that I could give for you to maybe latch on to the 50-plus years that I've lived here.
Okay. Well, I think that the time gods are smiling on us tonight because we know that graduation is tomorrow, which is always a bittersweet time. And we do have 3 board members up here with kids graduating, which makes it even more exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking. So,
Yeah, one thing, could I mention?
yes, please.
For the board members, please try to be at the Cure Arena by 9:30, no later than.
Yes.
The students will, the procession will begin promptly at 10:30. But sometimes if you're there a little bit later, the traffic gets a little bundled up, and not just our security, but the local municipal security and police will be there.
Yep.
But the traffic does get a little congested toward the end,
Yes.
right before.
Our next meeting, we'll have a whole lot of graduates and a whole lot of younger children enjoying their summer, so
Yeah.
wishing everyone a wonderful, safe, happy summer. Wishing congratulations to our graduates, especially our own Megan, who we really enjoyed having over the course of this year. We'll look forward to seeing her on the stage tomorrow. So with that, may I please have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Winston, second by Mr. Carangelo. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Get home safe.